So, hi everyone. My name is Blair Embry. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager for Prison Yoga Project. Really, truly one of the best jobs ever. I feel so grateful and humbled to be here today. And this is part of our series, The Journey Inward. This is an opportunity where we can gather together and hear personal stories of healing and transformation from individuals who have experienced incarceration. And I'm really excited to introduce our guests today. First, we have Jen Lindgren. Jen joined Prison Yoga Project in 2019 as a chapter director for New Hampshire. She has been facilitating trauma-informed and healing-centered yoga classes to incarcerated individuals since 2017, including the instruction of a 200-hour yoga teacher training. Jen's passion for movement and movement-based therapy began in the late 90s, working with at-risk youth to share dance and interpretive movement for connection and confidence. This connection to healing through movement has guided her studies to become a yoga therapist. It has inspired a passion for offering yoga and movement inclusive and accessible beyond the dance or yoga studio setting. So welcome, Jen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And our next guest, Leanne Elliott. Leanne was a program participant during a round of Jen's yoga teacher training at a correctional facility in New Hampshire. And I have a personal statement that Leanne sent me that I would really love to read, and I think it will really resonate with all of us. I was an angry person that could never find my place in the world. Since I started practicing yoga, I am a different person. I am happy and full of life, willing to share my light and love with anyone and everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, Leanne.
Thank you.
And our guest and our host for the series today is Shonda Williams. Shonda Williams has her master's and is an RYT and a yoga teacher with a background in body mechanics, wellness coaching, and advanced training in trauma-informed yoga practices. Shonda has been a yoga teacher since 2004 with a deep devotion and focus on service. She has taught yoga in San Francisco County Jail for 2 years before joining the Prison Yoga Project, where she has taught regularly since 2014 at San Quentin State Prison. Committed to teaching yoga for health and social transformation, she is pursuing a doctoral degree in somatic depth psychology, researching evidence-based practices to heal trauma through mindful movement, breathing techniques, and meditation. Congratulations on your path, Shonda, and thank you so much for being here. And we're going to start off today. We like starting with a centering opportunity. So it really gives a chance for all of us to come into the room, and Leanne is going to lead us in a centering opportunity. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to invite everybody who is not seated to get seated. Find a nice, comfortable place. I'm going to start. You can close your eyes. Keep them softly open. I'm going to start by focusing on the breath. Everybody take a nice deep breath in. And then just exhale. Just focus on the breath. Feel how it feels, the cool air as it comes in through your nose, as it goes down your throat. The way it feels filling your chest, your lungs, your belly. See how it feels when it comes out. That nice exhale. Focus on any tension that you might have, anything that might feel uncomfortable. Without judgment, just feel it, just let it be. All right, and our next inhale, we're going to just roll the shoulders. See how that feels. Any tension, cracking, popping. It just feels nice. All right, we're going to try going the other way with it. All right, we're gonna bring our focus back to our breath as we become still. Start by bringing our focus down to our feet. See how they feel. Are you in shoes, socks, barefoot? Bring your breath right down to them. They deserve a lot of our focus. We put so much weight on them every day. All right. Just gonna let them relax. If you have tension, you might try squeezing the muscles of your feet and letting them go. Bring the tension up to the calves. Feel any tension you might have there. Right? Let's bring it right up to the thighs. Bring that breath right to those thighs, those glutes, the hamstrings. All need some love. Right? Bring your breath right to that belly, right where your light is. Imagine that light right in that belly, just expanding in all ways. Right down the legs, shooting right up, right out of the crown of your head. Love that light. You can bring that light in your breath right to the ribs. Right up into the chest. Feeling all the movements as the breath comes in and fills you. New life comes in, old life goes out. Melting away all stress. Just let it all go. Bring in love, joy, peace, laughter, happiness. And bring it, all that breath and light to your arms. Wherever your hands may be resting, you might feel the fabric of your pants or your shirt, the arms of your chair. Maybe warm. Maybe tired. Just let them rest and relax. To breathe that new life right into them. Right up to the shoulders. That's where a lot of us carry a lot of weight that is too heavy. Just feel that weight come right off the shoulders as you're inhaling and exhaling. Melt it all away. Because you are beautiful, you are strong, and you deserve so much more. You can bring that breath to the throat, that light right up there. Feel that cool air coming through the nose, into the throat, soothing it. ready to speak all that needs to be spoken. Breathe right up to the face and relax that face, all those muscles. Let that light shine right out of that face. Let the light shine through the crown of your head. Honoring your space. Bring our focus back to our breath. We do a couple more shoulder rolls. Just really let that tension go. You might want to put your hands on your knees and do a little cat-cow action just to stretch out that spine. Just notice how that feels. Now find some stillness. Focus back on that breath. I want to thank each and every one of you. You are beautiful, and I enjoy sharing my space with you.
Thank you so much, Leanne, for holding us in that space. That was so beautiful.
Thank you. It's been a few minutes since I've centered anybody, so I was a little nervous, but I kind of might have rushed a little bit.
It was absolutely beautiful. And towards the end, I peeked my eye open a little bit, and I kind of realized, I was like, Jen gets to witness you as a facilitator in this moment. And she was the one who passed on the wisdom. And that was really beautiful to witness too. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. As far as the agenda for today, Shonda will be leading Jen and Leanne in a discussion for about 40 minutes. And then we're gonna open the space for Q&A. And how we typically like to open Q&A first is anyone who has experienced incarceration or has been affected by incarceration, we like to open the floor for them to ask a question first. And how you'll be able to do that is you can raise your hand on the Zoom bar at the bottom. There's an opportunity, and you can raise your hand and then we'll call on you, and you'll be able to verbally ask your question, and you can direct your question to the group or anyone you see sitting before you. And then we'll open the space up to everyone. And how you can ask your question for the general audience is, again, on the Zoom bar, there's a Q&A box, and you'll be able to type your question in there. And then also thank you to Priscilla, part of our PYP team. She'll be answering any questions that might come up in the chat. So thank you so much for being here as a space holder today as well. And with that being said, I'm gonna go dark, and Shonda, you can take the lead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Blair. And thank you so much, Leanne. That was so beautiful. I feel so grounded and centered right now that I kind of don't want to talk, but that's not the point of today. So thank you very much. It was beautiful. And yeah, so tell us, how did you learn centering practice? Like, tell us about that. Like, it feels so natural. I couldn't tell that you haven't done this lately, but it just feels like it's deep inside of you, right? So maybe talk about that.
We have Jen to thank for that. She is a very, very, very amazing teacher. She's an amazing person altogether, but she is an amazing teacher. And a lot of what I I've learned from her. And I mean, I also do like meditations, like guided meditations and stuff. So that I listen to. And I was gonna play music too, but I didn't know if that'd be too distracting, so I didn't, because that's another thing. Sometimes it can be distracting, sometimes it's not.
Yeah,
But
your voice was perfect. You don't need any sort of accompaniment. It was perfect.
thank you. I feel like part of it comes from being a mom, like soothing your children.
Mm.
So you like have to talk to them like in a nice, calm manner. But most of
Yeah.
it's Jen.
Well, we'll get to Jen about that in a little bit. But Leanne, tell us about yourself. Like, where are you from? You mentioned that you're a mom, so it'd be great if you could just kind of give us a little bit of your background.
Okay, I am from New Hampshire, from Rochester originally. I became a mom at a very young age. I gave birth at 15 to my oldest, who is now 21. I had kind of a rough upbringing. I mean, I didn't have the easiest of a life as a teenager. I never really got to be one. Had my second child by the time I was 18. So, I mean, I grew up really fast. And I ended up turning in the wrong direction and ended up becoming a drug user. And like I would stop, like I stopped, I had my son, and then things went bad. And I ended up selling drugs in order to use drugs and ended up in the prison system. But while I was in the prison system, I found yoga. So, I mean, it was probably the best thing that's ever happened for me, was the prison thing. Like, nothing better. My life would not be where it is today. I was self-destructive. I was on all the wrong paths. And somehow all my paths led to prison. And it's a good thing that they did, because I am where I sit where I sit today because prison happened for me, not to me, for me. I learned I snuck into my first class with Jen, but that's how I ended up in yoga. And I got to say, I always felt like I didn't have a place in the world. I always felt like I wasn't worthy, like I wasn't enough being just who I was. And then I learned of yoga. I learned I am strong, I am beautiful, and I am worthy. Like, I am all of these things, and I am proud to be who I am. Even if I'm just doing, working at a pizza place, or even if I'm just being a mom, I'm still worthy. I'm still strong. I'm going to be the best mom I can be. I will be the best at my job that I can be. And I don't care what anybody thinks, because it's all about how I feel. Nobody can make my happiness but me. And I've learned that through yoga. If I can't have anybody else, I can't rely on anybody else to make my happiness. My happiness is within me. As long as I'm happy, and as long as I find joy and pride and love myself, then I can pass my love on to others, and I can accept the love of others. But until you find that love for yourself, you're going to be lost.
That is some deep, deep wisdom, Leanne. You sound like you should be like on a mountaintop, just dispelling your wisdom to the masses. It's profound, and it's really quite poignant. And I want to point out the statement that Blair read of yours earlier. It started by you saying, I was an angry person. I don't see an angry person. I don't see this. So maybe like tell us about like this angry person, because what I see before me is like bliss and love and light.
That is me.
Yeah.
And before, like, I was mean. Like, I would hurt you with my words if I couldn't hurt you anyway else. Like, I was cold. I didn't let anybody in. Anybody that tried to come close to me, I would hurt somehow just so that I didn't have them close to me. I was very, very mean and angry. Like, everything made me mad. If somebody else, something happened for somebody, I wasn't happy for them. I was mad. Even if I had the same thing, I was still mad. I was just mean. And I was just always so angry. Like I felt like I was dealt a bad hand. But you deal your own hand. Sometimes you get a card and you know what? You hold on to that card because later on that card's going to work for you. It's how you get to see life. Like cards you're dealt are the cards that you are strong enough to deal with, and they're dealt to you. Everything in life happens for a reason. And sometimes you may not know what that reason is, and you might not ever know, but there's a reason. And I find that reason is going to work out. I mean, led me to a great place.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because you say, incarceration, prison, it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. So maybe talk about like when you were sentenced, like what was your sentence and how long did you serve?
I was sentenced to 3.5 to 7 years. And when I first was sentenced, again, angry, how could this happen to me? I don't deserve this. And then I started to go to yoga and I was like, actually, I kind of did deserve this. Like this didn't. And then I started to like learn about myself and find myself like, okay, that angry person isn't who I am. Like I am not that person. This is the person that I was many years ago. Like the person that's coming out, that's peeking out. I was putting on a mask for so many years, being somebody that other people wanted me to be. And that's where the anger came from, feeling like I couldn't be myself. Right. So when I got to yoga, I found I don't need a mask. Like if people are going to love me, they're going to love me. If they're not, they're not. As long as I love myself, nothing else matters. I have my children that deserve my love and that are worthy of my love because they're loving human beings. There's many more people in the world that I will share my love with. And if there's one person that I'm not going to share love with, oh, well, so be it. Like not everybody's always going to get along. As long as my love for myself is here within myself, I'm going to be okay. And that's when I started to realize, no, this didn't happen to me. It happened for me. It was an opportunity. It was a card that I was dealt, per se, like that I wasn't happy with. But I pulled that card out when the yoga came out and I was like, time to play that card. I'm going to use that card. And now look, I could not be a happier person. I really couldn't. There's nothing in this world that I want or need. I have all that I need. I have all that I could possibly want. And now that I'm like into my yoga, there's not very much I want. I just want to share my happiness and share my joy, share that light, share my space with people. It's great.
It is great.
I did 26 months in prison, and then I did 9 months wearing the ankle monitor that I recently just got off on the 18th of this month. So, yeah. So I'm like, I'm still on parole, but I'm free. I can go out to lunch and go shopping and go to the gym if I want. I can do all of the things.
That's so great. So happy for you, Leanne.
Thank you.
So how did you hear about yoga? Like who was practicing yoga? What was the word? Like what did you hear? Who told you what?
Before I came to prison, I used to make fun of people that did yoga. I'm like, oh yeah, that's for moms that don't have jobs. And then I got to prison, and one of the girls that I was in with, that I was doing time with, was like, oh, you gotta come to yoga. You gotta meet Jen. She's great. You'll love yoga. So I went with her to check it out. And I was like, well, I'm not signed up. She's like, oh, nobody will even notice you until I walk in and Jen walks right up to me. But that's how I did my first yoga session. It was blown away. Like, wow. It's a lot of work. I thought at first, like, you're using all the muscles. That's not easy. That's not for just some stay-at-home mom. I mean, that stay-at-home mom that does yoga is strong. I mean, it takes a lot of strength. It really does. But the inner self, like to find peace with your mind and your soul and with who you are, that was the most like mind-blowing thing for me.
Mm.
Once I found that, I was just like, this is on. Like, this is it. This is what I need in my life. This right here is exactly what I've needed in my life my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah, it just like fireworks went off after that yoga session. I was like, wow, what was that? This is yoga?
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Jen, do you recall Leanne trying to sneak into your class, trying not to be seen? Do you remember that moment?
I absolutely do, because she still had very long hair. And she definitely walked in behind the other woman and sort of went over and started looking at the books and things. And Leanne, I mean, obviously, even over the internet, you can feel the energy that Leanne holds. And when there was no possible way she can't walk into a room unnoticed. And no, it was an incredible moment. I mean, all the moments are incredible, but it was, I remember coming in, I did go right up to her, because I knew she wasn't on the list, but not that there was no rule about that, but I needed to make sure I knew who she was, and just, and right from there, no, it was magic. She never missed a single class that was offered. I think Anna's on this call too, listening in, who also teaches in New Hampshire, but she never missed. We ended up, over the time, the program was growing as well prior to the YTT starting, and we had gone from 1 class a week to eventually 3 classes a week. And like, I remember Leanne coming in, that her work shift ended, like an overnight shift that ended right before yoga began, and she was like falling asleep coming into yoga, but never missed ever a single class. And it was one of the first ones to sign up for the teacher training too. And just, a wonderful experience and relationship, and amazing human to know.
Definitely. I see that. I feel that already. So maybe, Jen, can you talk about the relationship, right? Like, we go in as facilitators, we're offering this practice. Talk about the relationship that you have with your students, and also with Leanne, specifically.
I mean, I think that there's a tremendous amount of love and honoring and respect, and I think for any teacher in any environment, and certainly for yoga teachers who are listening here on the call as well, that folks come to yoga for a place of connection within themselves, and they're offering really a very vulnerable side of who they are. And you add the fact that these women are incarcerated. Used to say it's my class that I teach where everybody happens to wear the same outfit to come into class that day. But it was really incredible to have conversations about the mental health benefits of yoga, and to be able to, there were some of our classes that would almost turn into a workshop style forum where, people would just come in and the energy would just be, so high, something had happened right before, or there's just a shift in the dynamic within the facility. And I remember one day where it just like charged in, like the doors open and they're like, can we start with a guided meditation? And it was just like this level of like, we need this. Yes, we absolutely can. But then to be able to really, I think, witnessing those moments when any individual can all of a sudden connect with themselves. And again, like Leanne, her light, that when that starts to spark and to light up, and you're able to hold space and bear witness to people finding themselves and connecting with themselves. And you're lucky enough to be able to witness and share those moments as well, and learn stories and learn histories. And, you know, there's a lot of physical concerns for folks who are incarcerated, where, you know, as yoga teachers moving the body, we need to be able to consider truly what's safe and what's, you know, supportive. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Leanne's magical. I have everybody's tests and things. But I had written, when she did her final exam, her final teaching, because we had to prepare a 45-minute sequence and teach one another. And I have this lovely assessment tool to, but I wrote, Leanne, you're beaming at the front of the class. Such an amazing gift you're giving. You create such a comfortable space where your students can be themselves in this open, safe environment to just explore. You show your personality and your passion for yoga and your passion for teaching. And she, it's an incredible experience. So that's it. It's where we're so fortunate to be connected this way.
Can I just add that, as being a former student, we have a lot of trust in you also. Like, there's not many people in the system that we can have that trust connection with. And with you and Anna, we had that. Like, you were somebody that we could go to and be like, and we knew it was in the safe space. So you were more than just a yoga teacher. You were like a counselor, a confidant. Like, you were just amazing throughout my whole process in the prison. I didn't have anybody that I was ever like 100% open with, except for you. Like, I was able to come to you if I was having a bad day and just tell you what it was, and you were always there to help. It was amazing. Thank you.
Wonderful. So Leanne, talk about that a little bit more. You said that, you know, Jen's getting emotional.
Don't talk about it. No, I'm just kidding.
But you know, Jen created a safe space for you. And, you know, for the teachers who are out listening to this webinar or will listen to it later, you know, I think that is probably first and foremost. Like, you know, you're going into these environments and you really want to make sure that, as Jen was expressing, people are coming in, you're very vulnerable. And so to, as you stated, have that trust in this individual, right? So like, talk about like, what was it? Because you're still like in the prison environment, which is not a safe space. So what was it about Jen and the practice and being there that made it feel like a safe space?
Her openness, her kindness. You could just feel, you can feel when you can kind of feel it even through the screen. Like, she just has love pouring out of her. There's no judgment ever. Like, to be able to talk to somebody and not feel judged is by far the biggest thing when it comes like to trust, and knowing that it's going to stay with her also. Like, they had counselors on site you could go speak to, but if you're having a bad day, if you say the wrong thing, like, oh, I just want to pull my hair out. Oh, we're putting you on the medical ward, suicide watch. Like, Jen, I'm like, oh, I just want to pull my hair out. And she'd be like, okay, well, why do you feel that way? Is there something triggering that? Like, have you, you know? Would she walk me through it and not be like, hey, call medical, this girl's crazy. You know what I mean? Or an officer, okay, well, we're going to turn around, cuff up. You really don't have that in the prison system. The counselors have to, you know, put you into medical, or the officers have to cuff you. And like, having that yoga teacher there, or, I mean, some people, I'm a spiritual person, so I didn't do the church thing. So I don't know how that went with them. So, I mean, maybe some people have it, but with the yoga, having Jen and Anna there were amazing, because they don't judge you. They're amazing women. They have love pouring out of them. So that you feel safe, and you know that trust isn't going to be broken.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to have. If I didn't have them I probably would have had a nervous breakdown in prison. Like, absolutely. And I feel like yoga really should be brought across the board for everybody. Like, everybody should try it at least once. Just give it a try once. I tell everybody I could just try it once. Just one time. That's all it took for me. Just once.
When you were leading us through the guided meditation, you referred to like our light, right? And you've referred to during our conversation, like your light. What are you referring to? I know what you're referring to, but what are you referring to?
Everybody has that glow, that shine, that happiness, that love that just grows, and you feel it radiate off their body. Like when I meet somebody, I can feel, sometimes you get like a negative Nancy they still got that light. It's not as bright, but they still have it there. It comes from your core, from your within, your soul, just stretching out to love the world. That's how I see my light. I have a big light though.
You do, clearly. It is enormous. Yes. So you mentioned you have 2 children. Do you have more? Or is it
3? I have a 21-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 12-year-old.
Wow.
Yes.
So where were they when you were incarcerated?
They were unfortunately in different places. My oldest stayed with my parents where I am now. So she's living with me right now. My middle child, my younger daughter, stayed with her aunt because she is a ballerina and she needed to be close to the dance studio. And her other aunt owns the dance studio, her uncle's wife's family. So she stayed with her aunt so that she could go to her family's dance studio. And then my son is 2 minutes down the road at his father's house. So, I mean, I still get to see them all now, and we have all of the love, and we have a wonderful time when we share our space. But while he's in school, he's staying with Dad, and he'll be staying here with me in the summer. So
that's beautiful.
Yes, and it was very sad that they were broken up, and it still hurts a little bit, but there's nothing I can do to change it. So I just let it go and move on and let the future be better.
Yeah, definitely. And what was your relationship with them? What was it like when you were incarcerated? Were you able to be in touch and to see them regularly?
Yes. I mean, before incarceration, my son was attached to me at the hip. I never went anywhere without him. So it was he deals with change. He's very difficult, even with time change. Even when there's a full moon, he doesn't sleep right. He's just one of those children, very intact with time. So he had the hardest of the time. But he adjusted well, and he was able to do the Camp Spalding that the prison has, which is another great program, the FCC program. But he did Camp Spalding, so he got to come, and I get to show him yoga in the gym.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes. He still does it with me, but I'm not allowed to tell anybody. It's our secret.
Okay, we will totally keep that under wraps. We won't tell. I don't know if many people realize that, there's like over 200,000 women who are incarcerated in the United States, and many of them are moms, right? And so just thinking about like the impact, right, for both the parental relationship and then also for the children and where they are, right?
Yes. I mean, even though my oldest was 18, it was still hard for her. I mean, and then not just in the form of me not being there anymore, but also kids asking questions. And I mean, it's hard. It's just as hard for the children, if not harder, than it is for the parent. Because I mean, yeah, we get ripped away from our kids and we don't get to see them, but you're also in a controlled environment and everybody's going through like the same thing. With the kids, it's different. And that's what always broke me up, is like, they're the ones having to suffer. Like, I can handle my suffering, but to have them suffer was always so hard. And that's another thing that yoga helped me deal with, was the whole parenting thing. Like, okay, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You're here. So you're just going to move forward. You're going to just let be what may be. And it's I would sit there and I would just pick at it. Like, if I would have done this, then I would be, and you just go down this rabbit hole that you're never going to come back from. And it's horrible. You don't want that to happen. But yoga shows you your future's bright. Just keep doing the right thing, keep being who you are, and everything will be okay. Yeah.
So talk about your practice now. What does it look like?
My practice now. I do yoga probably 6-7 times a week. Sometimes I'll do it, like, I'll have a morning off, so I'll do it in the morning, and then I'll have a rough night at work and I'll be like, oh yeah. Sometimes it'll just be the meditation when I come home, but sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I need a little yoga love. But I try to practice quite frequently because it just makes me happy. And why not do things that make you happy? I still hate the chair pose. No, I don't hate it. Okay, that's a strong word. I dislike it. I still use it in my practice because I know it's only going to make me stronger. I still drop down and get my eagle on. Yes. I try to, so I have a book that has different poses in it, and I try to do some of them too. But I still do, get my stretching in, try to strengthen. I do all of my things. I mean, sometimes it's like a 45 minutes. Sometimes it's like, I did like an hour and 20 minutes out on the deck the other day in the sun. And it was the first time I'd ever done yoga outside. It was the most amazing thing in the whole world. You could feel the sun shining on you and you like breathing, the cool breeze coming. I was like, this is just, you hear birds chirping. I'm like, this is a whole new like world for me. Like, this is amazing. I am loving it.
Wow. Okay, Leanne. Yeah, we could just record you and you could just promote yoga. Like, that could be your thing, is that you are just the face. Yes.
She makes an amazing ambassador for yoga.
Totally. So Jen, when you hear Leanne be so effusive about yoga and the practice and what you mean to her and bringing this inside, like, what does that feel like for you?
I mean, it's overwhelming, I think, in a really incredible way, but I think, as for anybody who again finds yoga, there was some cause that brought you to the practice. And I think my own history with finding yoga was trauma-based, that there were a great many things from my own history that no other type of thing, from self-medication to therapy to, allowed me to actually find in here and connect back. And it's something worth sharing. It's something that folks deserve to feel comfortable and safe in their mind and their body. And yoga is the best thing that I know how to share, and to be able to share it and share it to a place where other people are learning how to share it, and just to be able to expand that exposure and that, the accessibility, where, we're still kind of teetering in a society that somehow has limited people's perception that yoga could be for them too tends to be a little non-inclusive sometimes. And it's so not the case of what this practice is. And to be able to start to bring it everywhere, where, like Leanne said, like if anybody just has a moment, an opportunity to be able to see if it's something that's going to be beneficial to them. And if it is, you should be able to have access to continue that practice and continue to do it. And it's amazing. It's just, we're incredibly fortunate to be able to share this practice of yoga and to be able to just offer it and to see other humans as we're practicing. It's incredible. I mean, I think, Chanda, you know too, from conversations and with, like, you feel like you can't possibly send out more love, but it's always like super overwhelming when you know that love's coming back. And I think it's just because you sort of think, like, I am the yoga teacher going in, but it's I don't know, there's so much connection and there's so much just humanity that happens in the work that we do. So I don't know, it shows that what we're doing is really nice.
Definitely. So before we open it up to questions and hopefully answers, Leanne, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of have the last word, right? So here you are on the other side, right? You are formerly angry person, but now just radiating pure love and light and happiness and joy. And I'm happy for you. I'm incredibly proud of you. And I feel like you are a blessing. Like, you're blessed and you're also a blessing. And so I wanted to offer that to you, but I also want to just give you the opportunity to have the last word before we open for Q&A.
If there's anybody out there that hasn't tried yoga, I just really feel like you should try it just once, just give it a try. If it's not for you, that's okay too. But I mean, I'm telling you, right here, you'll feel it. You'll know what I mean. Let your light shine bright. Love you all.
Yay.
Answers? We got questions?
I think so. Yay.
So at this time, we can open the floor. So we usually have to open the floor to anyone who has experienced incarceration or has been directly impacted by incarceration. And again, how you can ask the question is down at the bottom of your Zoom bar, there's a raise hand option, and we will call on you and you'll be able to unmute your audio and you can ask a question directly.
I just saw a question pop up asking if it was available at the men's prison. Oh, it was answered.
Hey all, this is Priscilla. I just wanted to share some comments that we got during the Facebook Live. Someone named Mia Marias says, Leanne, I'm at work right now, babe. Can't exactly check in, but I soon want to. I miss you and you too, Jen. So proud of y'all goddesses.
It's Mia More. She's the one that stuck me into my first class. Oh.
Right? She must have known we were talking about her.
She must have.
She felt it. She felt the energy.
She did.
Right? Look at what she created by bringing you into that first class.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yay.
There's also one more comment from Danny Plunkett. He said,
Danny.
Love yoga outside, miss doing it on the yard at San Quentin. Love this story.
Oh.
Hey, Danny. So good to hear from him. Yeah, he practiced with me and James at San Quentin. So that's
You got
great.
to do it outside in your prison?
No. He's referring to like outside. He's been released from San Quentin, so he's practicing now outside. We all practice it together inside.
I was like, oh, another thing we got to work on.
Right. That would have been amazing.
So we have a couple Q&A questions coming in here, so I can speak them out loud for our attendees. The first one is from Anonymous, and they say, "What an incredible conversation. I feel so humbled just to listen to your story. My question is how, as yoga teachers, can we make yoga feel like it can be for anybody, since it does have the reputation of being for moms with no jobs, LOL. Especially if there is trauma behind that can make it difficult for someone to want to open up in that way." This person is saying, "My brother has experienced incarceration and I want to share yoga with him, but he doesn't seem interested and I don't want to push, but I think that this might be a common problem for other people as well." So again, restating the question, just really how as facilitators can we make yoga accessible for all people?
Want me to start? We talk about this all the time. I think that it takes time. It takes a commitment to be able to listen and to talk to people and to not force anything. But beyond the movement and the meditation of yoga, there's a lot of other limbs. There's a lot of other pieces to what a practice of yoga can mean. And sometimes that personal work and being able to have support to do that deeper exploration sometimes has to come first, because if the level of detachment that an individual is from themselves, they're not always ready to go there yet. But the breath is a good place to start, to just understand how being able to notice the fact that you're breathing. There's no rules about it, but to be able to feel that and to start to feel that connection within yourself, that there's shifting or there's a small amount of tension release. And then there's a little bit more that we can explore to this next place. I think as a yoga community, we have a big job to do the work to change the image of yoga. That there's a lot of commercialization of it, or for a practice that really was meant for humans to be able to practice, to connect to themselves, to self-study, to move and feel confident and comfortable and united within self. No one should be excluded from that practice. But it takes, again, that patience, that listening, that time to slowly introduce it. I have a lot of folks who they want to stretch with me. They don't want to do yoga, but they want to stretch and do some moves. I said, so you don't want to breathe, because we can just do stretches and not breathe, and then we don't have to call it yoga. That's just being silly and a little. I don't know if that really even answers it, but I think it takes time, it takes dedication to it, and it takes conversation and invitation and being able to talk through what might be beneficial for someone, and then be able to say, well, let's try this and see how that feels, and move on from there.
I think that's a great response, Jen. Really just looking at, we see our asana practice is only one limb of yoga, and looking at yoga as these 8 limbs, right? And so how are these other ways that we can kind of reach people that might benefit from a practice? Because as we all know that we've benefited so greatly from this. And Shonda and Leanne, I'd also love to hear your opinions as well with this question of really how to tap into offering yoga in an accessible way.
I think that if other people are talking about, that's how I got into it, is by hearing about it from another inmate. I know with men, I feel like they might look at it a little differently because, they're their man. But little do they know that yoga could make a quarterback fall to his knees and cry. I'm telling you, I've seen grown men not be able to hold a posture, and they're like, how I'm this big, burly, strong dude. It's not about that. It's about letting go. You got to breathe with that posture. If you're not doing it properly, you're not going to be able to hold it. It's fine. But I mean, that's another thing is you got to be strong. Yoga doesn't just make you emotionally strong, but physically strong. I mean, maybe if we put more of that out there too, that might help. I mean, on the man aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with both Jen and Leanne. I think the consistency is a huge part of it. And I also want to say that, speaking personally for myself, it's very nearly impossible to bring your family to yoga. So I commend you for wanting to share your practice, but I really have only been able to share my practice when people are in a very traumatized place. That's when they're kind of desperate and grasping for something to help me in this situation. So, I think definitely you just being consistent and being yourself, and hopefully that will, provide enough of an interest or curiosity perhaps for your brother. But when someone else that he knows, likes, respects, and trusts brings up yoga, I think that will definitely be probably a stronger draw than hearing it from his sister. I've tried. I'm the youngest of 5, and I've tried. It is hard.
My
So
daughter
just putting it out there
with me.
Yeah.
What's the saying? You can't be a hero in your own home, or you can't be a hero in your own hometown. So yeah, thank you for sharing all of your personal opinions of how we can really bring and offer yoga to all people. Leanne, we have a question for you. Are you currently teaching yoga?
I'm not teaching formally. I do some with the kids at work, and with my son. I would like to teach. I just haven't got to that place right now with the whole COVID thing going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully when things open up soon, that an opportunity will open for you. Yeah, I would really love to see you have a Sangha and people that you practice with and offer wisdom. That'll be really beautiful to witness.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have a question from Boris Hines. How do you get a yoga or mindfulness program started at a correctional institution?
Oh.
Patience and persistence. That's where you start.
Yeah. Thankfully we're creating a resource for places where there may not be programming now. That I think for me, I had been teaching for almost a year before I knew of Prison Yoga Project. It was a lot of pestering and emails and visits and just reassurances and many volunteer hours to be able to do it. Fine though, now that we're several years into this work, that our Prison Yoga Project organization is growing, and just that data and studies are now really they're getting a lot more attention, how beneficial this work is within facilities, that it's not as difficult as it once was to at least start those initial conversations. Nothing goes quickly. So once you're able to get an audience for that initial conversation, then it's still that consistent persistence. But there's ask us some more questions. We'll find us offline. There's many resources now to be able to begin those conversations and start those programs. But for you as a teacher to make sure that you're supporting yourself with a level of education and understanding of trauma, of the environment you're going into, and sort of doing that prep work for yourself as a facilitator, to then be able to then go and sort of propose a program and just start that. But I think the number one answer of starting a program is securing your knowledge and your education and preparing yourself, and then being able to connect with the facility to start exploring programming.
I did my part. I told the parole board, they're like, which programming helped you best? I'm like, the yoga one. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah. And then all my questions were about yoga and nothing else.
That's awesome.
It really, that's what helped me the most, though. To be honest.
Thank you for that feedback too, Leanne. And I wish I could have seen their faces when
They were very intrigued.
and to go on what Jen was saying as well is that to do some plugs is that we offer a few different kinds of training at Prison Yoga Project. So if this is something that you are interested in, there's a few ways to kind of access this programming. We have moved our foundational training to an online platform. So it's an opportunity you can start at any time. And we dropped the link here in the chat as well. It's a foundational training. And it's about a 6 to 8 week program that you can do on your own. And what it does is we really start to establish the view of yoga for people experiencing incarceration. Or people working with marginalized populations, working with at-risk youth, how to facilitate and how to hold space in a trauma-informed way. And then we have a couple other exciting announcements as well, and I think maybe that this is the time that we can share that. So now is our official announcement. Your guests that you have here today, Jen and Shonda, have been working extremely hard to bring you a 200-hour yoga teacher training. And it is with a focus of yoga, social justice, and leadership. And this is basically, I'd say, Jen, you can talk about it more. This is the same training that Leanne went through as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so, I mean, and where, yes, with some things that, you know, the world has evolved and changed a little bit. And it's time to bring a little bit more of a social justice platform into a deeper dive into yoga and how, you know, the personal healing and the collective healing are very symbiotic of one another. So where the program that Leanne had undergone really focused more internally. It was, we didn't go as, I mean, the outward sort of happened organically. I think the conversations are there, those exist, but we just were able to take a lot of those talking points and be able to build them specifically into the syllabus to offer space. And I think, you know, again, trauma comes in all forms, and folks are working through healing that has to do with generational trauma, has to do with sexuality, has to do with race and religion, and, you know, every violation against humanity that we're going through as a culture and as a society. And by being able to have a space to talk about how that lives within our body and how it comes out of our face and where those levels of emotion occur, that's a practice of yoga. But we don't always have those conversations because sometimes they don't feel good, but we don't feel good already. So why not talk about them and move through it and bring ourselves to that place where we can connect with one another. So there's just a little touch more of opening the door for those conversations as well as the personal healing ones.
Thank you for sharing that, Jen. And just mirroring and reflecting that back, what I hear is that what you guys have created for this offering for Prison Yoga Project is really offering yoga as service. So not really teaching for studio yoga. So how do we make yoga as accessible as possible with the view of a trauma-informed facilitation? So so excited. Again, the link is in the chat box. And Shonda, is there anything that you want to add about the yoga teacher training too?
Yeah, I think for me, speaking for myself personally, like this is the 200-hour training that I wish existed when I got my TT back in 2004 or 2005. Because we're really talking about really elevating and amplifying, right? All of these voices that don't typically get to be heard. Like Leanne said, she thought yoga was for, moms who didn't work. Well, yes, yoga is for moms who didn't work, and it's also for everyone else. And so I think, this is really about inviting in those voices that haven't been heard, and really creating a space that respects and celebrates diversity, that celebrates your history, your background, and invites you to bring your full self, right, into the practice. Because that's what's going to pull all the other people in, right, who have a similar story, who have a similar background. So if you are, formerly incarcerated, if you've experienced, homelessness, whatever your story is, it's like it's appreciated, and we want to hear it. We invite those people, right? Where this is a strong kind of open-ended welcome to those individuals who have felt really kind of ostracized and pushed to the margins. We want to welcome them here.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Shonda. And I feel like it relates back to what Leanne was saying as well, as just really having a lack of belonging throughout your life until you found yoga, and that it kind of gave you this permission piece that you really belong everywhere. So I think that that's also indicative of the kind of programming and the space that we hold at Prison Yoga Project. And then Leanne, there's a question for you that I want to steer your way. I first want to say how grateful I am for you, Leanne, for always bringing light and energy into the room with you, and for often bringing friends to yoga. You are an amazing yoga ambassador. I was wondering, what has been the greatest challenge for you as you transitioned from being released, and how has yoga helped you with this transition? I'm wishing you all the best. And this is from Anna Meertens.
Oh, hi, Anna. So really the hardest part about transitioning, I mean, the whole thing was quite difficult. After 2 years of being told when to eat and how to dress, and being in such a small space, I mean, a lot of the stuff, like going out just to the grocery store, to the convenience store, like I'd have to do breathing. I'd be like behind somebody in line practicing breathing techniques that I knew, just in order to not have like an anxiety panic attack with all the people that are around me and all the options and choices. Like that was one of the big things. Another thing is being in my room alone. Like I've had somebody else in my room for 2 years. I shared a room with somebody and had people all around me that were in other cells and across from me and up from me. And that was very hard also. But being able to, bring focus onto my breath and to calm myself that way is really what helped most. Like a little guided meditation.
Beautiful. Thank you. I could feel that in my body of, that you were always around people. And then when you were released, to really have an opportunity to have solace or silence or your own personal time. I can feel in my body, even just hearing your story, how much of an impact that would have on you.
Yes. I mean, it was. And now it's okay. Like I invite that time for myself. I don't mind it so much. I'm like, oh, I can read a book and nobody's going to be asking me questions, or I can do a little yoga session on my brand new yoga towel. It's not brand new anymore, but it's still new and I love it. But yeah, I mean, and then I get time where I get to be around all the people. I mean, it took a little while to adjust, and I've adjusted quite well. And that's all because my breathing technique. I mean, I still use it. Like, if I feel like my head might blow at work because somebody's doing something they're not supposed to, I'm just like, all right. Okay, I'm back. Hi, how are you? On that. Just take a little step inside myself, and then okay, here I am.
And
one of the kids I work with jokes all the time. He's like, could you imagine about some, he'd be something that's like crazy. He's like, it'd be like someone taking your yoga away. I'm like, you better not. Nobody can take that from me. That's something that's mine no matter what. It's for all the world.
And I can hear that that's also where this, like, oftentimes we call it Vajra pride, and it's a pride in knowing your inherent value, and that's something that no one can take from you.
Yes.
And that your yoga practice is this opportunity for that Vajra pride to really shine.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then Sarah, who asked the question about if you were facilitating anywhere, she wants to hear if you would ever consider facilitating a class in a prison.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
For me to go in and facilitate, absolutely. I would love to. I'd love to show more women like that are just like me, like, and being just like them, that might actually help them come to the class. Like, oh yeah, the facilitator is the person, was behind the bars once, it might, like, I have that level with them where we're the same. And I'd just love to shine that light right on that and let them leave with, like, it changed my life for so many reasons. I'm a better person because I found that yoga program, and I would love to share that with other people, as many as I can.
Well, it's perfect because you have the hookup with Jen.
Yes.
Maybe you can hide behind Jen and come into the
Get into the prison.
Yeah. And we have Jeff O'Meara here, who is our UK prison program director. So hey Jeff, I'm really happy that you're here, and he has a question for Leanne. And Leanne, is there a specific way that you feel your yoga practice supports your sobriety? Your happiness is an inspiration. Thank you.
It really does, because a lot of the reason I use is because I didn't feel worthy of myself. I didn't anybody else. Like, I didn't feel like I was good enough. And doing the yoga, like doing my practice even if I don't do it every day, anytime I do my practice, I realize, like, I'm an outstanding person. I love myself. I don't need to self-medicate to feel this way. I don't need to make myself feel better because I'm at the top of my game sober. Like, I'm just as worthy as the next. So yoga is like the biggest part of my sobriety. Yes.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for that question. And thank you, Leanne, for your really beautiful and authentic response to that. Maybe Shonda, this is an opportunity for you to come in with some of your wisdom and knowledge as well. I feel like it might be an opportunity for our audience to talk about how many people are incarcerated because of addiction, and how there are other ways that we can support individuals that are currently experience addiction. So I would love for you to hop in with some wisdom there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but, of the over 2 million people who are incarcerated, a vast majority of them do suffer from substance abuse issues. And as Leanne was referring to, for many of them, it stems back to early childhood trauma. And so we know just from those statistics alone that the majority of people have experienced neglect and abandonment, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse as children. And so either to self-medicate, they use and then end up in the system for a variety of reasons. And so I think something like the Prison Yoga Project really, supporting people while they're inside, right, to cope with kind of like the compound trauma of being incarcerated, right? and to deal with the issues that might be stemming from, you know, their lack of sobriety. It's like it's kind of like this twofold or even like a multi-pronged approach, right? Where you're thinking about someone really just trying to survive day to day while incarcerated, but this then being something that they can take with them when they are returned to our communities and use this as a practice, right? To help them sustain and maintain, you know, clean living. And I think, you know, both in Leanne's conversation and in previous webinars, we've seen it where people, you know, maybe they do an asana practice, maybe it's just the breath practice. And just that alone is enough to give them the space, you know, to actually like be aware, to have a sense of consciousness about like their choices, that they have a choice and they can choose a different choice. So I think that that has been really, really profound to see that. And, you know, many of the individuals who come into our classes, you know, they're dealing with a variety of issues. And so the yoga is there to support them through all of that.
Thank you so much. And I feel like it could be an opportunity to plug our women's book, Freedom from the Inside. But I agree, right? That's like when I first came to a meditation practice, it's about creating the inner spaciousness. And that inner spaciousness is what gives you the opportunity to make different choices. And so when we are in so much of our own trauma, the space isn't there. The support isn't there for ourselves. And so these practices really create that internal space. So thank you for sharing that, Shonda. We have a question from Adrian, and they are currently working on their 200-hour YTT. What advice can you provide on finding your voice? It is something that I'm struggling with, and I'm wondering what helped you the most. And maybe we could get just like a little insight from all of you. Leanne, let's have you go first.
You want me to start?
Yeah,
I'll
I'd
start.
love to.
In my voice, I was quiet back then, but as you get into it more, the more you practice it, the more, and you see that it calms people and helps people, the more you'll find your voice. And you'll just, before you know it, you won't even know how to stop. Like, you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, it's been way longer than I'm supposed to be doing. Okay. It just happens. It just takes practice, like everything else. And once you find like the inner, that
Thank
helps.
you. Jen, will you share with us too?
Absolutely. I mean, I certainly absolutely reiterate what Leanne said. And I think it's not forcing it. I think part of the journey of yoga and part of learning to be a facilitator of yoga is a lot of self-discovery too, where I think sometimes when you're waiting for that moment and you're yearning for it and you're looking for something to force words from you, it's not going to be your authentic voice. And I think as you're able to, again, be with people, see that interaction, be able to start the cueing and guiding, and notice where your authenticity is coming and benefiting and you're being heard, that's going to help it blossom as well. I think when you try to be too selective of the words that you're trying to find, it almost is a continued barrier, because you're looking for something that still doesn't sit within you as your authentic voice. But yeah, just go, just talk. And you too will come to the point where you're like, oh, it was much longer. It just goes.
Shonda, will you share with us as well how you found your voice?
Yeah, definitely. I agree everything that Jen and Leanne said. Practice, practice, practice. You have to just start. And I will also say too, you know, like, what's your motivation? You know, I would really start there. Like, why am I teaching this? Like, why do I want to teach this? What did this give me that I want to now share, right? And who are my people that I want to share this with? If you are a cancer survivor, maybe people who are, in the process of healing and recovering from cancer, those are your people. You go talk to them because you have that shared experience. If you, are in the 12-step community, maybe those are your people, right? And you're talking to them about like how this practice is supporting you and maintaining your well-being and your sobriety. I feel that, when you're going through a 200-hour, like there's just so much information, and you want to get it right and you want to do it perfectly. You won't do it perfectly, and that's okay, right? It's like if you show up, right? If you just show up and you just allow yourself to be a vessel. I really, every time I walk into any yoga space, San Quentin, studio, a client, like you have to create space to allow, right? And so I know like when you're in a 200-hour, like, you got to teach your standing poses and your seated poses and your twist and your inversions. And you got to, like, there's so many things that you're trying to manage, right? And, want to cultivate this experience that's positive for people. That's great. And you also want to create this spaciousness that allows the magic to happen, right? You don't want to talk too much because people hear there's just too much noise in the world. So you got to be quiet and kind of recede a little bit, but don't be too quiet, right? So it's like this balance, and you'll be able to like really kind of feel into the room and feel the vibes. And again, I think if you find your people that you really want to support with this work, you will find your voice, because your voice it's there, right? So you just need to let it come out. And I think that's best done if you're in an environment that you're comfortable with. Like, I know there's certain places I would not be comfortable teaching, and so I don't teach in those environments. So, right? I don't go there. Those aren't my people. But yeah, I would really strongly encourage Adrienne and any other, newer yoga teacher is just be patient with yourself too. It's a practice. It is a practice.
Yeah, find that passion.
Thank you so much. I really love the idea is that like the seed to grow your voice is your motivation. That it's like Arjuna and the arrow, the story of the arrow, right? It's like, what is your bullseye? Like, what is it that makes you only see red? And that is where you go, and you run towards your motivation. So Adrienne responded, she said, Leanne, Jen, and Shonda, thank you so much for your advice. Leanne, thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your love of yoga. Jen, love you. Shonda, thank you so much for your advice. The three of you have all spoken to me in very different ways, and I'm very thankful. So thank you for that question. And I feel like at this time we'll start to wrap up, but I want to give all three of you maybe an opportunity to say a sentence or two, or to speak to each other in these last kind of final moments before we do some housekeeping.
Leanne.
Hi. You guys, I didn't have your pictures up. I couldn't see anybody. I was like, what is happening? I want to thank you for inviting me to share this space with you beautiful women today. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Do you remember the Sphinx Pose day?
Yes.
There was one moment, for anyone who's taken a YTT or just has been in a group of people where all of a sudden like the magic clicks. We were doing posture training on Sphinx Pose, and everyone was kind of offering invitational language and, how does it feel if you roll your shoulder, do whatever. And Leanne was the demonstrator for our posture. And there was this moment where, again, if you practice yoga, sometimes things just set in your body and it just feels amazing. And for the 10 women witnessing Leanne being guided by them into this posture, finding it to a place where she completely lit up and just set in, and every woman around her went, oh, that's it, it's there. This like beautiful moment. And that's it's my favorite like moment of the training experience in that whole thing was that second when everybody in the room just shared that new light birth of their fellow learner. It was pretty magnificent, but I've been wanting to ask you about that first. It was a magical day. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share.
That's a beautiful story, Jen. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Leanne. Our first conversation that we had, which was last month, I was blown away by just how much joy you radiate. And so thank you for inspiring me and just making me, you make me feel really good about myself because you're just infused with so much enthusiasm. So
you're beautiful and strong. You should be very beautiful.
Come here, Leanne, and just be with me all the time and just say those words. But no, you are beautiful and you're magnificent and brilliant. So thank you so much for your grace and your eloquence. And oh my gosh, you're amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I love you guys. You guys are great. Give me my group hug right now.
This was the most joyful afternoon. Thank you all for being here and sharing your wisdom and your joy and your experiences with yoga. Thank you everyone who is here or possibly watching. And congratulations on Jen and Shonda for the release of our 200-hour yoga teacher training. You guys can check the chat as well. So we have an info session coming up that Jen and Shonda will be hosting. So any questions that you have for the Q&A, or if you've already registered, please feel free to come to this session. It will be about an hour, and let me double check the date. I think we have April 13th. It's a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Double checking. Yes, April 13th. It's a Tuesday. Again, if this is work that resonates for you, our foundational training is a really excellent way to start. We also offer 4 workshops within this training that really bring you through aligning with transformative justice, but in an embodied way. I will say what we've created is really quite special and unique in that way. It's not heady, right? It's like, how do we feel these values within our body? Because that's really what leadership is. Our leadership carries and follows us with wherever we go, like when we're in the grocery store or the library. So this leadership is something that can radiate from us at all times. So again, thank you all for being here. This has been an absolute pleasure and joy. So Leanne, it was so nice to meet you too. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It was great to meet you.